Odysseus-The Epic Myth of the Hero, Book 19. With sweet Arnea then I learned the secret pleasures of a loving home, and 9 months to the day we wed, my son Telemachus was born. Our life together was a hidden world, more vast and more compelling than the outside world could ever be, the truth a touch away. But fate, to whom the gods themselves must bend, would not allow our happiness to last. The only thing you can depend upon in life is change. All else is hazard. The day my son stood up and took his first few steps alone, a ship arrived from Corinth with a rumor that the beauty Helen had been kidnapped by a prince of Troy while Menelaus was down in Egypt trading. From that day on, I set a watch high on the hill that overlooked the bay and waited for the ships I knew would come. The winter passed and then the spring, but summer came, and with the winds that blow from Africa, black sails were spied approaching. I ran out to the barn and hitched an ass and an ox up to the plow. I donned an egg-shaped peasant's hat and slung a bag of salt upon my shoulder. And that is how they found me, Agamemnon, Menelaus, and dark Palamedes. Out in a rocky field, my rows completely crooked, sowing barren salt behind me. No one can expect to hold a madman to his words. I prayed to Hermes, god of thieves, to aid my ruse, and sang a silly children's song of plowing. But dark Palamedes, that son of ancient wisdom, saw right through me. He snatched my son Telemachus out of the arms of sweet Arnea, and placing him before the path of trampling hooves, I pulled up short to save my son, and now dark Palamedes spoke these bitter words. If the author of Achaean unity were not to join the cause of getting Helen back, it might be hard to call the other kings to keep their word. This war will need all clever men to rack their brains to breach their God-built walls. The bargain that you made binds all. You won't be left behind to love your little woman while the rest of us go fight and die. The war will start right here if you refuse. A fleet of 50 ships is anchored in the bay below Mount Ainos on the Isle of Same. Should we sail away without your word to aid our cause, or should we not appear in 3 days' time, those ships will come and lay your land to waste. I went and picked my son up from the earth and gave him back to sweet Arnea. And if I'd worn my sword that day, I would have killed Palamedes right then and there. Instead, I spoke these words. The oath that I'd devised was meant to keep Achaeans from each other's throats, and not to serve as sanction for a foreign war. I feel no shame attempting to avoid this onerous travail. I'm happy here at home and want to keep things as they are. But if you wish to fool the world that you will fight to bring the beauty Helen back, then first you must consult the oracle and send ambassadors to Troy, or else Achaeans all will know you're only using her to push your dream of conquest and to free the Hellespont for passage of your Black Sea trading ships. And tell me just how could the bitch escape your watch? Now Menelaus replied and spoke these words. The Prince of Troy announced himself at my strong gate last fall. His name was Paris, and he claimed to be a son of Priam. So I took him in as guest and friend, as Zeus commanded, all strangers be treated. He came upon a quest, he said, and told a tale as fabulous as any bard could sing. He claimed that all the gods who live at ease on Mount Olympus were invited to the wedding of the mortal Peleus, the king of wild Phthia, and Thetis, goddess of the sea, but that somehow the goddess Envy was forgotten. This demon goddess came ahead, and in the midst of all the guests rejoicing, threw a golden apple with these wrangling words inscribed. This apple shall belong to none but her who is the greatest beauty. Now Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena claimed the prize, demanding Zeus to be the judge. But he refused the honor and suggested that they find a mortal man who had an honest reputation. Why they chose this Trojan prince is only known to God. Perhaps they each believed that they could bend him to their will because they offered what he wanted most. Hera promised kingly power and the conquest of the world. Athena offered wisdom of the sages and a memory of the future and the past. The goddess Aphrodite told him that he would have the greatest beauty in the world to be his wife, and so he set his course toward sunset. When he arrived, I barely paid him any mind, beyond the hospitality that was his due, and sailed to Egypt as I'd planned. When I returned, I learned that she was gone, and that she took all of her jewels with her. This said, all understood that Helen was a willing victim of the rape, but none dare say it to his face, and so feeling like the gods were playing with my life, I joined the war to bring the beauty Helen back and vindicate the notion of a Achaean family. That victory might free the Hellespont for passage of our ships was understood. That was a dream among Achaeans, since the Argo brought back the golden fleece, back home from Black Sea Colchis. Agamemnon and his brother Menelaus and dark Palamedes stayed as my guest until the oracle came back from Delphi. The priestess said that if it came to war, it would last 10 full years, but then our forces would tear down the walls of Troy and rescue Helen. Then Nestor, ancient king of sandy Pylos, beached his slashing ship upon my shore. We all agreed that war was not the only way to set the matter straight, but Nestor, wise as snakes that give the gift of second sight, protested that King Menelaus was wrong to be the one to plead his cause, and I alone should go to Troy to represent the bold Achaeans. But headstrong Menelaus insisted, so we sailed next day for Priam's city. The Trojans met our embassy with scorn. King Priam claimed he did not know a thing because Prince Paris had not yet returned. We found out later that this was true, but Menelaus then raged and threatened war. Hector spoke these forthright words in answer: 1,000 favors we would grant upon request, and gladly do so. Not to a single threat will we give in, even if it means our walls should topple. Stop this whining for your woman. Helen isn't here. Did Trojans prattle on about King Priam's sister, tall Hesione, when Hercules abducted her, or venture to your courts with weeping tales to tell? Accept our word as men who fear the gods, or bring the war you threaten to our shore. I think you'll find that Trojan men don't shrink from bloody combat where the spears fly thick. So we made our plans for taking Troy, like men who knew that they would have to go through rock to dig their comrades' graves. The bold Achaeans sent 1,000 ships to bring the beauty Helen back and make the world safe for all our families. And like the priestess said, we fought for 10 full years.